meeting to order. Craig, welcome back out of jury duty, and I'll make the minutes of the building
Well, the AMATS meeting is a public meeting, public is invited to comment, for the opportunity. If we have a business item, we'll have a presentation by staff or consultant, and the committee will be given an opportunity to discuss it. And at that point, the public will offer comment.
Thank you, and actually, I need to back up and do roll call. Mr. Is it Bucko?
Either or. Yeah, I'll answer to anything,
Steve.
but I'm here.
Okay.
Mr. President.
Mr. Weaver? Ms. Heil? Here. Jennifer Wood here. Mr. Wilbur?
Here.
And Mr. Morris?
Here.
So we do have a quorum.
Yes, and both Mr. Carr and Ms. Epstein let me know they were not ready here, so they were excused. And Mr. Hanson said he would be.
So you're saying he has notes?
Currently, he's absent.
Okay. Approval of the agenda. Anybody have any changes or comments they need to make on the agenda?
Madam Chair, I think on the approval of the minutes, I think the minutes are looking great. Myself, the April 30 minutes are 37 pages long, but it is the date in which we actually approved the MTP. I
We have a different one, is it?
haven't had a chance.
April
to get
20th.
to- April 20th. April 20th.
I'm not the June 16th,
The
okay.
April 20th one. So if I'm the only one that hasn't completed reading them, then my bad, but I would ask that you poll them so we get a chance to review them.
Any objection from the, it's a pretty important meeting, and so I don't have a problem. Anybody have a problem pulling, and just to do next time? Any other changes to the minutes, or I mean, to the agenda?
Second.
Okay, the agenda as modified is approved. Approval of the minutes. I guess we have 3 sets, but actually now only 2. June 9th, 2011. We are doing a good job getting them caught up now and making headway. That's really nice. Do you have any comments?
Madam Chair, I move to approve the June 9th, 2011 minutes of the MSTAC.
Second. Any objections? Okay, so approved. And then June 14th, 2012.
Madam Chair, move June 14th, 2012.
Second. Any objections? Minutes are approved. Thank you.
Joe, excellent job on the ones on the June 9th are the ones we started our discussion on the financial plan. So there was a lot of conversation, a lot of tracking going on. So anyway, nice that those were good.
Okay, Mr. Lang, now to business items. We have before us the 2010 to 2013 TIP Major Amendment 4, which was introduced primarily to add fiscal year 14.
Yes, that's correct. This was the 10 to 13 tip, and we wanted to make 2014 live and drop off 2010. So now the final result of this amendment, if passed, will be that we now have an 11 to 14 tip instead of 10 to 13. So you folks released this previously. It went out for public comment. It went to the Planning Commission. It went to the Assembly. Also went to our Bike and Ped Committee. As you remember, when it came back here to the TAC, we were able to move some things around, take advantage of some other sources of income and add the money in for the Bike and Ped implementation. There were no changes at either the Planning and Zoning Commission or at the Anchorage Assembly. So there have been some really minor changes in between the last time you saw this and now. They're updating some numbers that headquarters funneled through to get some newer numbers, but nothing substantive has changed since the last time you saw it when you added the Bike and Ped money in. So.
And the memo that you have here basically documents all of the changes between what was the currently in place adopted TIP and all of the changes that have been made.
It includes the Bike and Ped implementation stuff as well. So everything that's changed.
All the changes.
The first change was the first time you looked at it, the additional Bike and Ped, and the additional stuff that has been done in the interview for our gateway. So I should also mention that the conformity determination was done on this. I don't believe that we had any projects that required a conformity analysis, but nonetheless, the consultation team met via email, met electronically, and there were no problems with assessing the conformity determination as it was. So,
And I just, I'm sorry to add, and it did go out for public review 30 or 30
I believe that's all the information I have. Oh, I will let you know that Mr. Wilbur asked me via email whether or not we did get information from the Alaska Railroad, and I did, and those are incorporated in here. So their table 7 is updated. So we should be set.
Okay, and at this point, we're turn over to the,
At
any
this point,
discussion?
we give the committee an opportunity to discuss it. No motions yet, but discuss it.
I do have a piece of information here that just today, DOT out of Juneau released the draft STIP amendment, the major amendment. And I noticed I just took a very quick peek, and the numbers are a little bit different than what we worked with for 13 and 14. The best that I can tell, if you go to the 5A memo, is that the 2013 total, if I read the STIP correctly, is about 27.2 million. And and that would be the same for 13 and 14. And since our program is heavily dependent on ACs, for 2014, we can discuss as a committee whether we want to allow staff to make some tweaks to balance the ACs in those 2 years to reflect the DOT amount, which will ease its adoption into the STIP, or we can wait and do it as a minor adjustment when we do the first audit report. And so that's just something, this isn't so new, we can just wait and do it as an adjustment. But it is just, if there's a little bit more money than we had originally planned for, which helps the ACs. So any other discussion by the committees? We've wrestled this piece for several times.
I think we should, I'd be in favor if we ever do the motion would be to give staff a leeway to balance with the new budget to address the ACs. I think if we try to do an odd report, it will come into wanting to put money into other places. I think we should look at necessarily this as putting money to other places, but to release the burden of the ACs, in my opinion. But other people may have other opinions about taking any kind of increase and putting it in other places, so.
And it would, the total amount would probably impact then staff had to look again at the percentage allocations. So so that's something, when we take action, we can decide. Any other comments? I'll open it up to, oh, wait, Ken.
This is still a draft STIP amendment, correct?
Right.
So there still is potential for change. How much faith do we want to have in that document, recognizing the amount of volatility that it's had over the last couple of months?
Good point. Any other comments before we open it up to the
Todd Logan, and I just want to one more time thank the Technical Advisor Committee for being so responsive to public comments and finding a way to increase the funding for bike plan implementation. So very much appreciated by myself and lots of others.
Anybody else? Okay, it's back to the committee. What is the desire of the committee? And Mr. Martin had a good point that even while the STIP is the statewide tip is out for public review, those numbers could even be further refined. So it's trying to, gel into a wall or something like that. It's, and I'm okay either way. I mean, I think if we adopt the tip the way it is now, I think a minor adjustment could accommodate the changes as well.
Madam Chair, I move that we recommend approval of the 2000,
Point of order? The
We should do
conformity.
Conformity first.
oh, the conformity, thank you.
Move to approve the conformity termination for the 2010-2013 Agents Transportation Improvement Program and recommended final adoption by the policy committee.
Second.
Any discussion? Any objection to approving the conformity determination? Okay, it's approved. Now, Mr. Willoughby, go ahead.
Thank you. Madam Chair, I move that we recommend approval of major amendment number 4, creating the 2011-2014 TIP.
Second.
Okay, discussion. Any other changes required?
I have some comments and some changes. Maybe we'll start with some comments. Craig, I think you did a nice job kind of keeping up with the things that have happened since we released it. We passed a statewide bond, and a lot of those projects, you recognize in the text, O'Malley, and I think you got most of them in there, and I appreciate you doing that. The only other comment I had would be just on table 5. I think in our work program, we have the studies and plans, the Alaska Regional Architecture ITS update. We don't have any of these kinds of funds. We don't have any CMAC funds planned for that regional architecture update, or do we have that? It was in our work program to update. Are we not using consultant services?
Vivian, if I remember correctly, there's some previous money and some PL.
Okay.
Didn't we have money in the TIP before?
We did.
Yeah.
We had $100,000 or so.
And it's already been obligated, is that right?
I don't know the answer to that. It was $20,000 also for the Region 2 turbo architecture.
Well, I didn't see any money in here, but I recognize the work program as an effort, so I didn't know if it was where the dollars were coming from. So
This may be one that was previously obligated and expended, and so,
but we would still show the money, would we not, even though it got obligated?
no, we don't have
It was
it.
prior to 10. Oh, maybe it was 2010.
That's a good point. We
Okay.
should show if it was, yeah.
Okay.
Should leave some flexibility in that, or pick it up as part of the next
Okay.
adjustment. That's something we should look into.
If I could, Madam Chair, just carry on a little bit. On the second one right below that, it says Consolidated Metropolitan Plan, LRTD. Craig, I think I think it's okay for the staff to work on this one, because this money is actually not to consolidate the two, it's to start working on the modeling and to start working that out. So I know that we talked about the intent of that, and we have a couple work sessions. So if you could
Oh, change
we'll
the.
change the text for the purpose, because we're not using that money for, as it's described in the tip.
So modify the text to reflect what is also the
In the
intended work
work
program.
program. And for those consultant services. And then, I think those are my administrative ones, and then I have a formal addition that I'd like to add. Based on our last, the Public Transportation Department had received a couple competitive grants in the past, and as a result of that, we had to go through a major amendment process just to include that stuff in the tip so that we could advance the project. And what Mr. Carr offered when we did that last time, and what FMATS does, and I think it's acceptable, is that they recognize those projects in the tip, but they show the money in the illustrative years so they maintain a balanced program. So I passed out a one-piece sheet of paper like this. Public Transportation has plans to put in a grant request for 2 particular projects. And their numbers, and we would ask that they be added to Table 8, number 27 and 28. You can read the descriptions there, but in general, the first one is a competitive grant process or program process that we will be going after to help support workforce development. And then the second one is a pilot project that's targeted towards transit-oriented development. We've got a lot of needs in North Anchorage where we want to do some of those needs. And if we're successful in our application process, we're going to be asking for $3 million to do that. I just asked the committee to put that in Table 8. It doesn't affect our financial constraint. It doesn't affect our conformity. It's just if we are successful, we don't have to do a tip amendment. We just got to put the money in. So,
Could I offer a friendly suggestion? to actually, if you get the grant, would it be in 2013?
It would.
And just, I would suggest showing the money in 13 specifically as illustrative. And so that
Okay.
makes it clear that you're intending to, that if you get it, you'll get it in 13, and then you can do a minor adjustment to make it real. Would that work?
It would work.
And under project phasing, it should say 2013 programming, or?
Thank you.
Well, we're actually.
Yes, no? maybe?
Potentially, what they're gonna do is they're gonna release these programs in the spring, and they're also gonna be in the process of rulemaking and releasing guidance. So I don't anticipate an award anytime before November or
Okay.
December. So I'm thinking it may be easiest if we program it in 14.
That's good.
So we can show it in FY 14 as illustrative.
So should I 14?
Where do you anticipate getting the grants?
I would think 14 would probably be the
And
soonest.
if you get it, a minor adjustment can make it real in whatever year you get it.
Right. It's already in.
So clarification, 13 or 14?
14.
14.
Okay.
That's all I have. Thank you. Bill, I need to make a motion to add this one for you. Then we will do it.
We move to recommend approval of the amendment to add 2014.
Yes, I did. Did I get a second?
Second.
Thank you.
Okay, so we're voting on the amendment first, correct? Okay, amendment to add 2 illustrative projects into 2014 and show the funding there, recognizing the grant applications that are under consideration. Any objection to that amendment?
And change the text for the phasing?
Yes, and change the text is gonna be 2014 program, it's gonna still stay.
So that'll be fine, okay.
2014.
But change the text.
Change
Chapter
the
5.
table to show the illustrative funds in 20,
Cindy's talking about the previous
The CMAC.
the MTP language.
oh, we need to.
But I think that's just administrative.
Okay,
This is the motion to add this. Yeah.
Okay, just to add this, and then we'll take care of that.
Can I just ask a question for you? Now, explain how this, it's illustrative, you get the money, we reprogram it, and that, what advantages does that give in terms of the?
Planning?
Yeah.
So the new rules under, the rules under the last years of safety lieu that carried over in MAP 21, unlike ICE-T and safety lieu, we had the ability to do minor amendments and major amendments. Then it came to a point, if you added any project or deleted any project, it required a major, what we considered a major amendment, even if the money was a grant won for a specific thing. And so we have to go through that 6-month process to just put it in a tip.
Just to add the language.
But by virtue of putting in an illustrative program, it doesn't constitute.
It does not. It does
Okay,
not.
okay.
Yeah.
And, you know, this is something that's happening in table 8 as opposed to the fiscal constraint 1, 3, 4, 5. So we can put it out there, we can show it as illustrative, and it's not hampering us. Whereas if we put it in 5.
But that's all right, no, I mean, I understand how.
It's a circus, but it's how we gotta do it.
Okay, so any objection to adding the 2 illustrative transit projects? Okay, that amendment is approved. And now to the original motion with some of the, I think it included as well the language change from CMAC.
The other land side. Identifying as administrative change in table 5.
Table 5, studies and plans. I just had asked, I don't know if it requires an amendment, I just asked the staff to make an editorial change for under table 5, studies and plans, project 2, it says consolidated municipality and LRTP. Make it MTP and illustrate the text that we've discussed in the past, which is the 800,000 is for beginning the initial update of the 2035 MTP. Household survey, modeling, all of those items.
Just make it clean and just
Make it
make
clean.
that an amendment so that we
Make
have
an
it.
adjustment. Yes.
Are you moving?
If any requires, I move that staff edit the text.
Second.
Any objection to that? Okay. Any discussion? Objection, it passes. Okay, now to the main motion, correct?
Can I ask one question? You were talking about the changes in the STIP.
Oh,
We haven't got there yet.
Thank you.
We were talking about, we haven't decided what we're gonna do yet.
Well,
We should discuss it then.
unless you've got some other amendments you want to discuss first, that was just out there and dealt with.
I think we should wait. So everybody okay
I
waiting?
agree. I think there's time.
Okay, so that brings us back to them. Thank you, Jill, for how quickly I forget. The major, or to the main motion. Any further discussion? Any objection? Oh, okay, we have tip major amendment 4 to be forwarded to the policy committee with recommendation for approval. Thank you. And I'm going to be coming. Okay, Ms. Ryan, take us through the UPWP 2013 financial plan.
So we've had a couple of work sessions on this, and what we have before you is kind of the final result. Again, the first table, the one that says draft table 2, PNC draft table 2 is the one that we're asking for you to adopt. The second, the staffing allocation is just the kind of worksheet that helps us figure out the rest of it. So took your recommendations that came out of the work session and created this table. Met with Bart and my staff to go over this for you. Tell you exactly what I did, but for the most part, we just moved the numbers around like you asked. Took some of the funds that were in the ITS and congestion management and moved them up into the MTP. And a little more into the tip. I have updated the column here that shows funding PL funds to DOT. I added some more of the STP funds that I had not connected in there, mostly the 440, the household travel program. So this should be up to date, ready to go as per your suggestions.
And for clarification, does this include all of the changes that Bart gave you?
Since he's not here, I can tell you his math is a little bit off, so I just modified it a little bit. But I did tell him that. So it's all the numbers that he showed in the DOT column.
Yeah, I just noticed that he
Modified
has.
it a little bit to balance to the 90,000 that you had. He was a little off.
Yeah, I just noticed that there's a funding assigned to tasks that nobody else is, that looks like may not be occurring. The Government Hill Neighborhood Plan is one, and the East District Plan. Are those gonna be ongoing this next year?
Government Hill Neighborhood Plan just got adopted, right? And the East District Plan,
It's in process.
So,
Okay, so the Government Hill Plan, I would just,
we could move that up to MDP.
I mean, that would be.
Yeah.
Did it really get adopted, or are they still haggling with
The government-
planning and zoning?
The Government Hill Plan has not been approved by the Assembly yet, but it was just approved by the Commission Monday of this week.
But the efforts by transportation planning on that plan are done. At this point, it's just the long-range planning staff finishing it through the process. So there won't be anything else on transportation planning on that.
And what about the East District Plan? Is that a new one?
That's in our work program. I think they just started it this year, they meaning long-range planning staff. We haven't had much interaction with them yet on that, but I
Okay.
expect in the following year we will.
We'll leave that one. Okay, discussion?
Yeah, I have a comment. I'm not sure if it's gonna have a reflection on this, but, I was wondering if we have our obligation report which tracks how we're doing in the tip. We get quarterly reports. I'm wondering if we shouldn't have a quarterly report on the UPWP on the timeline of the work that's related to it. I feel that would be a new element of effort for tracking, if that would then need to be adjust funding to make sure that that happens, because maybe that would, might be able to, we only see this at the end of the calendar year, and we've not, we've been tracking it quarterly, and so maybe on a quarterly basis.
Can I ask, were you talking about all the tasks or just the MTP tasks?
No, all the
Or
tasks.
Every single task?
Well,
We are required to produce a quarterly report, so my staff gives me a quarterly report on what they've been doing in that quarter. I get information from Steve's group and from Lori Skanke, and we create a document, so I'm happy to bring that to you folks and show you how we're tracking. That'd be easy.
Just to report back to the meeting.
Yeah.
That goes through.
yeah, I mean, when you talk about timelines and everything, I mean, it would still be not just on the other thing, but we still need to know on a continually basis, and hopefully we'll get a combined schedule here at some point that we can look at, but we do it on the we do it on the 10th. Why wouldn't we do something, making sure we're, if we have something that's a little bit more ongoing, then maybe we wouldn't have such a hard time with this every year, we do it once a year, and we're trying to handle budgets. Just a suggestion.
This is something we should probably add to the public enrollment plan to list specifically as, here's what happens in April, here's what happens in September, et cetera. So quarterly report, same time that the report is due. Presented.
You're good at anything.
Well, we are required to by our operating agreement. FHWA requires us to do a yearly, an annual report, but our operating agreement says we will do a quarterly report. So we're doing it, might as well do it.
Okay. Do you want to formalize that, or just make it a suggestion and we'll just?
Well, I don't, our obligation report, I think, is in policy and procedures, isn't it?
Our op report?
It is, because our, it tells you what our triggers are, but what we can approve and
That's
true. So it could be that we add that to, if you want to make it really formal, I'm not necessarily suggesting that, but, we can. That'd be where you put it, where the obligation report is, still as a policy procedure.
I don't disagree with that. I think it might be a good idea to try it for a while, see how it works.
Yeah.
And then consider putting it in the P&D.
I mean, Craig's right, you have, they're required to do it, it's just that report's just never been shared with the TAC, but I think it would add value to Cindy's request, so it's just a matter of making sure we get it when we do it.
What I usually do is, when I'm done with that quarterly report, I sit down with my staff and say, okay, so we're at 50% of the year, and we've spent 75% of the task in this task, and just, talk to them and say, do you think we're almost done, and are we gonna, at the end of the year, and get to 100%, just so we're tracking? So it could be that same sort of thing. Say, here's where we are in the budgeting, here's where we are in the task, and see if they line up at the end of the year.
Because I think we're all very, as the work session indicated, I think we're all very interested in how the household survey is going to do and how the modeling update are going to do, and all these very important precursors to the MTP update. And so maybe if we're watching this on a quarterly basis, it won't, the surprises won't happen, and we'll be much more in tune with what's going on. And if there's, needs to be, if it's looking like there could be issues, making adjustments earlier than later, and so there's no surprises.
Question, Greg, for example, like on the quarterly report you provide for the MTP, does that have a level of detail that we know what the status of the home interview survey is, and all those work products that are,
Yep.
that are required?
Okay, yes.
Well, thank you, that's, I think, I mean,
It's already done, so we might as well share it.
yeah. So I could say we could, to instruct staff to share their quarterly WP report on a quarterly basis. There's some.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second that.
Discussion? Anybody object?
Public?
Oh, excuse me, any comments from the public on this discussion? It's very exciting.
Just wait till you actually see it.
Can I ask you a question? When would that be? I mean, quarterly, when does the report due? When would you present it?
They are due, that was one of the things that we changed in the UPWP, in the operating agreement. If I remember correctly, it's the 55th day after the end of the quarter. Used to be that, well, it used to be the, I want to say the 23rd day, but in the course of, I think I've mentioned this before, in the course of a previous audit that the state has to do, we provided them a certain level of detail, and they said, oh, we really like that, that's great. But it is a level of detail that takes Renee upstairs in our admin group a long time to create. And so we said, because we have that much more work that needs to be done for these quarterly reports now, we need more time to do them, because we don't want to be late on the reports just because we're trying to get extra information together that's not originally required in the operating agreement. So that's why it's that.
So I guess my question is, would that mean that quarter one report to us would be in June?
No, you probably get it in April, May timeframe.
So it'll be before you're actually finished, or?
Yeah, I mean, I'll have a lot of the stuff there. It's probably May timeframe, I would guess, to be right with that. I mean, I gather the information from everybody. I get the financials from downtown. But then Renee has to take these two different databases and merge them together, and I don't even know how she does it. There's some smoke and mirrors involved. Something occurs, and I get this report, and I send it along, but it's really, the report basically shows what time was spent on a task by person. So instead of just saying, we spent $78,000 on this task this quarter, it says, Vivian charged this amount of time, Craig charged this amount of time, Teresa charged this amount of time. It's very specific, and that's what they're looking for. So it just takes longer to put together.
Yeah, but I'm just wondering whether it's practical for you to produce say, the first quarter report during our meeting in May, which is the first week of May.
Well, I guess my suggestion would be, if you leave your motion such that all it says is each quarterly report will be shared with the committee when they're done, instead of a specific time, then when I'm done, I'll share it. I don't know how specific you need to be, but just that it will be shared with the committee. Yeah. I mean, you'll get it.
So your motion that was to share their updated, their UWP report on a quarterly basis, it's still okay though?
Sounds like it. Yeah.
Craig, can you explain the relationship between the two different sheets here?
The second sheet, they're not going to be the same. The second sheet is allocation of staff time. So basically, for the most part, these are the people who can charge the PL funds. So it's got my staff in there, it's got the traffic data tax, it's got the admin people upstairs, it's got voice Yankee in there. And then it's based on an 11-month year, 2 months of paid vacation per year and 2 months of holidays. Or sorry, 2 weeks of holidays, 2 weeks of paid vacation per year. So that's how you get to 11 months instead of 12. And so if you look at the top, you start at median, that's 2.25. That means 2 months and 1 week out of the year I'm expected to spend on task 110. And then you take my chargeable rate, I believe this should be per month, I'm guessing, and then which includes health benefits and all that sort of stuff. And then you go over to the side, you say it's 9 total months we expect for all of the people who are charging the appeal to charge. And then I'm not exactly positive how we come up with these percentages, but I know I checked with Renee on them, so those are correct. And then you come up with a dollar figure, and then I take that number. So you can see the first one says 105,000, let's say, direct personnel costs, 103,000. PL share is 118, and I put 100,000 in there. So it's, it's close. It's used to balance out all of these things in there. I didn't put 103 point whatever, just because 100,000 is a round number. We're allowed to charge up to 110% of the element, so.
Okay, so I see the far right total on the TAC draft table 2 includes all of the match and how that's allocated as well. And yet what you are showing on the backup is federal only. Is that correct?
You mean the allocation here?
Right, I'm just looking at these
Yeah,
last two
yeah.
columns.
Yeah, this doesn't include the match. This doesn't include any STP funds out of the tip. Doesn't include the EPA funds, doesn't include. Because again, this allocation is not what you're being asked to adopt. This is, the table itself is what you're being asked to adopt.
Any further discussion or questions of staff on EPWP? Open up to the another exciting topic for the public here. If anybody would like to comment or have questions? Okay, it's back to the committee. What is the desire? Is there a motion?
Yes, there already is.
Oh, there already is. Okay,
Let's see, it was moved by Ms. Heil, seconded by Mr. Wilbur.
Thank you.
To instruct staff to share their PWP report.
I was, but I didn't second the motion on the work program. I just did it on.
No, she's just saying
that
there's a
item.
motion on the table right now. We can take care of that before we get into it.
Oh, okay.
what's the?
My quarterly report.
Oh. Any objection to the quarterly reports? Okay, that's approved. Now, do we have another motion on the table? We need one. Okay.
Move to approve the Unified W Work Plan as edited to the policy committee for approval.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, it was by Steve. Second by Steve.
Thank you.
Discussion?
You can take stuff separately?
Oh, all right. Maybe we should, well, we should take it all up, I guess. I'll ask the,
Second.
yes. So, is it to do the is it on, okay, it's to everything.
Yeah.
Everything's on the table.
Now I can make amendments, right? All right.
And Madam Chair, I just have one additional edit I just asked the staff to do and will provide you with the text, Craig. On task 157, I think it's on page 18, under other projects, we just want to recognize transit. I want to add another paragraph at the end of the performance plan. And it'll say, initiate the development of performance measures reflective of national goals in MAP 21 related to public transportation. We will be spending some of our time in transit working on those goals, and so I can give you the text that I just stated and give it to Jill, but I just like to add that to project 157. Initiate the development of performance measures reflective of the national goals in MAP 21 related to public transportation.
I've got it, Well,
Thank you.
Lance, you don't need to send it.
Okay.
Okay, we have one amendment on.
I'd move that we add that, please.
Second?
Thank you. Yes.
Okay, any objections to adding that sentence to the bottom of the task number 157 of the project? Okay, it's approved. Okay, any other amendments? And that, yeah, Craig, I think you had.
Yep, some changes on task 470 and 480. In 470, just want to change the language where it says, under objective, it says LRTP updates and on this, so it should be MTP. And on task 480, we talk about in the background, the MOA transportation computer simulation model was validated to a 2002 base year. So we'll have a newer version. Just get that updated.
So update it with the most recent information. Okay.
That, I think, is all the changes that I'm aware of. There are other changes in here that are in red that we've updated, so.
Move to make 470, 480 as described.
Any
Second.
discussion? Motion by Ms. Heil, second by Mr. Wilbur. Any discussion? Any objection? Okay, that's approved. Next.
There's this typo. It says, you got it. He's got it.
So in my original motion, I said edit, because I was referring to the chart, the edit that they had, and so to clarify that you talked about earlier for Bart's time.
Okay, so that's part of
The
the
original
of the original motion.
Yes.
Okay, any other changes? So we have before us adopting the annual budget for the UPWP as amended with the edits as proposed, and then the change to table 2 to move that $1,000 under task 241 up to, I think you suggested, Craig, move it to MPP,
Yes.
which is task 130. So that's what's before us. Any discussion? Any objection? Okay, so it sounds like we have a new annual element budget. Is this go to the policy committee for final approval?
Yes.
Or to, okay, so it's gonna go to the policy committee. Thank you. Okay, item 5C, AMATS policies and procedures amendment. Mr. Lyon.
Had a work session on this as well, with 2 different updates to the policies and procedures. The first one relates to the relationship or the relation of the advisory committee to the policy committee. In our policies and procedures, our first policy and procedure is general policies and requirements. And so I added these 2 sections onto the end of that. The first one talks about, Mr. Chairman, went through the work session, talks about how basically all AMATS advisory committees, including the TAC, the Architect Committee, Citizens Advisory Committee, et cetera, shall be public forums, provide advisory comments and recommendations to other AMATS bodies, is that the AMATS policy committee is the final decision-making body for AMATS. And the last section there would be the AMATS policy committee shall approve all advisory committee bylaws, which is how it's been in practice anyway, but I wanted to codify it here in the policy and procedure. So that's the first policy and procedure we're changing. The second one would add an additional policy and procedure number 6, the use of standardized socioeconomic data for transportation modeling, and also several work sessions on that as well. So that is the language that came out of there. The only question we had was it talks about at the end of looks like it's AA, so maybe that nomenclature might need to be tweaked, but it says the first report shall be prepared no later than June 1st, 2014, just making sure that everyone's good with that date. This report that we're looking for every 4 years, or at least 2 years prior to the required submission date of the NPP. This is what we came up with out of the work session.
Okay, discussion by the committee. Okay, any questions or comments from the public? Okay, it's back to the committee. We have 2 separate PMPs, so let's take action first on the one, so it's a addition to PMP number 6.
The number 1. If you're doing the top one first.
Oh, excuse me. Yes, adding J and K to policy and procedure number 1.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, discussion. I think this is, as you said, this is to reflect what we already do.
Right.
Okay.
I have a question. If we have these 3 committees now, the Air Quality Advisory Committee, the Bicycle Pedestrian Committee, and the Freight Advisory Committee, is it the operating agreement that identifies the Air Quality Committee as a member of the PMP?
Yes, the operating agreement does have that in there.
Because I'm wondering, I mean, there's been discussions that with their, you know, in maintenance mode, we're on the second 10 years of the CO plan, which if everything goes well, will go a payment. But air quality is, you know, is important, but may not be as critical as it has been in the past. But maybe it's time to start rotating that chair with the other two other committees so that we get more information out on processes. One of the things that I thought was, we had all these people coming in for the bicycle community, and a lot of them didn't realize a lot of how AMATS works and how the funding works and all the process. If they had had somebody from their committee who had some more familiarity with the AMATS processes and the federal monies and the restrictions and whatnot, that might have helped them understand at their committee level what they, you know, just understand a little bit more about the processes. So that experience is very valuable, and the freight is going to be important as well. And so maybe a rotate every year, once a year, rotate who sits on the committee for between those three committees might be more of a useful way of getting valuable information and giving people more of an understanding of how the process works.
If I may, on that one, the part of it goes back to the designation of the municipality of Anchorage as a planning organization for air quality back from the 1970s. And so I think that air quality membership is not only embedded in our operating agreement, but in the designation of the MPO as the air quality planning organization. So it would take more, it would take more than just a P&P change.
Oh, no,
That's pretty substantial.
I thought my first question was operating.
Jennifer, I don't think that's the case. I think the Air Quality Advisory Committee member, at least the TAC representative, that's a relatively new.
Oh, it's the
It's the
policy
committee,
committee,
yes.
excuse me, I'm sorry.
Yes.
Yeah,
Our
you're right.
representation on the TAC and the policy are, but the person, as far as a committee member, that's, you're right, it's new. When we went to 11 position people, we were looking for the
I
11.
see what you're saying, okay.
When we expanded, when we got the port on, it was the same time the port came on, it was the same time the TAC representative came on, and we were having lots of air quality issues at that point. So it's an operating, you know, it could be an administrative amendment to that. But I just throw that out there as a discussion. But you're right, you can't do it in here. That's why I asked the question first.
Pretty certain it would not be a redesignation, so it just has to be changed as we just did with the previous amendment.
So to rotate through.
The committees. Different committees have an opportunity to have a representation on the TAC for a year. So the freight person sits on for a year, and then the bike ped person sits on for a year, and then the air person sits on for a year. It's a committee representation. We have 3 committees.
So is it a request that staff look into it and come back with a recommendation?
Yeah.
Got it.
Does anybody else think it's a good idea or a bad idea?
I think Cindy, the notion of getting the committees more engaged into the topics that you mentioned, it's about the workings of AMATS, a little bit educated rather than just the bicycle issue, the freight issue, and so they can be more effective in the AMATS process is good. Whether or not they serve in a rotating, I mean, I think that's something that we should talk about. And if we wanted it to be rotating, we would have to do it in the operating agreement.
Right.
And, because we're gonna, with map 21, we're gonna have to change the operating agreement. Because it says all that little administrative stuff. So I think it's a good purpose. I think on
Right.
this matter, we
As
just.
soon as I was operating agreement, I knew we couldn't do it here, but I'd already started the question, so I thought I'd just lay out the issue.
Okay, so, yes, are there any other changes, or are there any changes requested for the J&K for P&P number 1? Okay, somebody, okay, do I already have a motion on that? Thank you, Matt. Any objections to approving it? Thank you. Okay, so the changes to P&P number 1 are made.
We're recommending to the policy.
Recommend to the policy committee to approve. Thank you. Now, PNP number 6. This is a new one. Use of standardized social and economic data for transportation modeling. This is a brand new PNP. And you're right, it's been a while since we've seen it, but we had work sessions on it, and any discussion about them? About this new amendment, new PNP?
Madam Chair, can I just suggest, it starts out with a uppercase N, and then it goes to a lowercase a for the next section. Seems a little odd. So instead of that lowercase a, if we made that a 1, so we would have 1 and 2, and then where it goes after the highlighted June 1st, 2014, if that went to a lowercase a and b, would that
But can I,
make sense?
the reason it was done this way is because that's how the rest of the PMPs are.
Start somewhere.
I think this is where Steve's nuns would have
Yeah,
had
yeah,
that.
yeah.
Is that the?
Yeah, well, we already had that discussion about the nuns beating you up for doing something like this.
When I did this, the nun direction in me was really vibrating when I said, oh, I have to do it. Because that's the way it was done. I have to be consistent if I'm.
It's unnatural, isn't it? Right?
It's unnatural to be consistent when you write.
Oh, I see what you're saying, because, oh, yeah.
Yeah, all of them are that way.
How often?
So they're all wrong.
Yes. Yeah, well, I mean, I would form my, I could fix them all if you can, if you have a document that would be easy.
Section Can I be given the go ahead to fix that, me, Mark and I can?
Well, we're doing the edits, we could just say, you know,
Yeah,
the third edit is to update all the policy procedures to the correct format, the outlined format.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, so this maybe keep that
Separate?
separate from what is
Fix
before us
that.
right now.
Right.
Do we have a motion to approve this one?
Madam Chair, I move PNP number 6.
Second.
Without the nun changes.
No none
So,
Yeah, less than none changes.
any content issues, discussion of the committee?
Just have one. It's not hard. So in this modeling, we talk about and I'll just use an example. Well, the first one, it says, AMATS DAC shall standardize household forecasts and sub-area allocations. When we're talking about modeling, when we're talking sub-area allocations, we are talking sub-area allocations for a region. We are not talking about sub-allocations for a study area like in the OSNHP. You know, when we have sub-area that are being studied, that's not the intent. I'm just putting that on the record. That is not the intent. It is for regional sub-allocation. Okay.
Maybe you should make that amendment, make it clear, because it's not in the text. Regional sub-allocation. Because basically what you're saying is that the sub-allocation between Anchorage and Matsu, correct?
And between Anchorage and Eagle River, because that's how they do the sub-allocation for the modeling. But they do the sub-allocation for neighborhoods. I'm not gonna make.
You know what, well,
Go ahead, say.
I thought, when I first wrote this, I think I meant TAZs, sub-area allocations.
Okay. Okay. Well, maybe then you should clarify.
Yeah.
You should
Well, yeah,
clarify
I
that.
mean-
Would you say TAZ allocations?
So there's
What's that one?
and sub-area. Maybe you could just put, on the first one, here's a suggestion, sub-area, and then in parentheses, TAZ allocations.
So it's consistent with the second one on the back page?
And we'll do the same thing.
Well, it's there in A, little A.
Yeah, it's in there, a little A.
Well, I think it does, it actually does say sub-area and then in parentheses TAZ.
Okay, all right.
So it's already defined.
If it's already defined, then thank you, Steve. I read right past that, so that's just my questions.
So we don't need to add.
No, I don't think so.
However, the issue that we butted up against this last time was the allocation between Anchorage and Matsu, using ICER's information. And I guess I misunderstood this first one, because I thought that was the intent, was to come into some sort of agreement on that regional regional allocation of employment and population, so that we're not double counting, you know, a good portion of our growth.
I think this does that, Jennifer, because even in the MATS, the TAZs, I mean, their region that has their own TAZ, they may be bigger. Point McKenzie has its own TAZ different than Palmer. So
Right,
that
but the-
allocation of the region within each of those TAZs is what this is all about. And I think it meets that intent.
Yeah, I mean, that's the way I read it also. I mean, I think the assumption is that we're gonna be using the same TAZ system for Metsu and Anchorage, and if each TAZ lines up, then each sub-area or larger regional area is gonna line up as well.
As long as we're not producing, you know, new jobs and people like potatoes.
I have a question. I thought at the first session that we had added in 144 days, and if anybody wanted to seek amendment to the change, they needed to put in 144 days before they actually needed it. Why isn't it here?
I don't remember that.
I don't know where the number of
There
days
was
was.
something-
It's just the number, they had to give it to you in advance. They couldn't give it to you right when they needed it, 'cause that's not gonna work. But there were, and we had a big discussion about that. You guys remember that?
I remember the time frame, but I don't remember the days.
But that, there's no time frame now anymore.
Yeah, no, I think there was, I think that there was a different version. I'm not sure if it was 144 days, but there was some time frame, yeah.
Yeah, I remember that.
So is it possible this may not be the latest version?
Yeah. I think there were some, yeah, I don't think this is.
I don't think this is either.
So maybe we should table this one and just forward to the policy committee, the first one, which is pretty plain. Do I have a motion?
Madam Chair, I move that we postpone item number 6 until our next meeting.
Second.
And do we have to do anything with our original?
We got a motion. We don't
Okay,
have to put it
let's
on.
table, got it. Okay. Oh, any questions?
No.
Okay, thank you. Anchorage CO limited maintenance plan, item 5D. This is to actually approve it and recommend, or to recommend to the policy committee approval of it. Staff presentation, we.
Sure, Jennifer, if I may.
Ah, there we go. Thanks.
Okay, Matt Stitchick on staff with the Anchorage Air Quality Program. And so back on October 11th, I asked for recommendation for approval of our limited maintenance plan to the policy committee. Subsequent to that, we found need to revise the final paragraph to allow us to modify the carbon monoxide monitoring network consistent with federal regulations. So we made that modification in the plan and re-released it for public review on October 14th. So it went out for public review 2 times now. Both times we received no comments from the public. But I also brought the plan before the Anchorage Air Quality Advisory Committee on Tuesday, and they did have a recommendation for us, which was to add a fairly minor sentence. And I must apologize, there are actually 2 copies of this plan floating around right now, because I did update the public review version of the plan following the recommendation of the Air Quality Advisory Committee. So on the 7th page, counting from the cover page, you see an underlined sentence in the final paragraph. You have the updated version. I have a second here from the updated version.
I didn't want to.
So I've written version B on these new ones. If on the 7th page, you see an underlined sentence. Yes, it's actually called page 3B12-3. Counting back pages from the from the cover page, it's page 7.
So we should be working from the verb.
Yes, from version B. If you see that underlined sentence, you have version B. So we're actually 2 stacks of them on the table here.
3B12,
Yes, page 3B12
15 pages.
dash 3 page. And it looks great because it's red font. Anyway, that is the sentence that the Anchorage Air Quality Advisory Committee recommended that we add to this plan. So I've done that following the recommendation. It really doesn't change the significance of the plan itself. I don't believe it requires us to go out for public review again.
So does staff recommend accepting the Air Quality Committee's recommendation?
Yes, we accepting the amended plan. I'll leave the remainder of these for version B over here on the table.
Okay, discussion of the committee?
Well, I support the addition of this language, although I'm a little concerned that it could be misinterpreted. And so I'm going to suggest that we add a footnote to that sentence. So, and I can read, and I have a bunch of, actually I have several copies if you want to see it, but I can read this one. There's no one. And I tried to say A version.
Is this version big B, little b?
Yeah. So I'll just read it. Basically, it's a footnote to that sentence, and it says, "The municipality recognizes the importance of assessing CO concentrations in high-impact neighborhoods and intends to continue monitoring at the Turnigan site. It should be noted, however, that it cannot provide a blanket, ongoing commitment to monitoring at any particular site because of unforeseen future logistical or budgetary constraints." So basically, if our budget gets cut again, and there's also a possibility, for example, of this, we're there at the pleasure of the Unitarian Church there, and it's up for sale. So we may lose our spot there. So those are the logistical concerns, the budgetary concerns. If we get hit another time, we may not be able to operate that monitor. So I wanted to make it clear that there's no specific commitment to any particular monitoring site.
right, and I'd like to just point out that on the very last page, the reason why we went back out for public comment is that we changed the sentence that says the MOA is committed to the continued CO monitoring as required in Title 3, Section 319 of the Clean Air Act. Ultimately, that's what we have to do, and the Clean Air Act only requires that you have one monitor. And it doesn't say you have to follow the siting requirements, but it doesn't say or require a commitment within the SIP that says where that monitor will be and that it just says you have to have the minimum. So we tried really, really hard to keep it very flexible. We passed this by EPA. EPA was perfectly happy with the way this wording was because they're trying to give us flexibility too. If we get too committed into this SIP and something changes, we don't want to have to come back for another SIP amendment. So that's what we're attempting to try to do, is not to have to do a SIP amendment if there's changes in municipality in the future, as long as we meet the federal requirements. So I would have to say that I'm very much in favor of adding the footnote, because I also get it. I don't think it'll be, I think it'll be okay having that sentence in there, but I still think it's the DPA. You know, it's our SIP, and as long as we have the commitment to meet the federal rules, they're okay with that. But you know, this is going into the gray area because it's almost like you want to commit to it, but I think Steve's footnote clarifies that it's not a commitment. It's just an editorial recognition that site has been important and whatnot.
And it is true that it's consistently measured the highest concentrations?
That's true.
Okay, so.
No.
Okay, we had comments from the committee. Any comments from the audience?
We used all your excitement at the last TAC
I know.
meeting, man.
Okay, back to the committee. Is there a motion?
question first, if I may.
Sure.
Does it make sense to monitor a site that represents the average? Or does it make sense to monitor the extreme? Which is the most relevant?
Both. That's the easy answer. Yeah, the EPA has citing criteria that has the objective, both objectives, depending on what you're looking for. And if you are monitoring for the highest location, that matters. I mean, you can violate there. And we think that this particular site is representative of many neighborhoods. So, I mean, it's just not the Spenard neighborhood. There may be neighborhoods around town that are very similar.
Okay, is there a motion?
Oh, sorry. I move that we recommend approval, or I should recommend that the policy committee recommend to the assembly that they adopt the limited maintenance plan as amended with the additional comment suggested by the Air Quality Advisory Committee and the footnote that we've suggested as well.
Second.
Okay, so the motion before us is to adopt or recommend forwarding to the policy committee to the assembly version B with the footnote. Okay, any further discussion? Any objection? Thank you. Okay, I think it's approved, okay, or recommended.
Oh, but I would like to say that I thought the DHS staff worked really hard on this and they did a great job. I mean, AMATS, this is gonna really streamline the air quality funding for all the tips and NTPs in the future. It's not gonna be any modeling required.
And it doesn't affect the spot analysis projects, correct?
So this is a really good thing.
Well done, Susan. Staff doing that. Okay, other business items, any? Okay, information reports. Committee comment. Steve?
No,
Ken?
no comment.
I commented the heck out of this meeting, so I will pass.
You did.
I'll just state again that for those who have an interest in transportation outside of Anchorage, the statewide transportation improvement program is now released for public review. And that announcement just came out today. Mike?
I think Bruce isn't here, but Bruce did a presentation to the Public Transit Advisory Board on what's going on with the Alaska Railroad. It was a long presentation, but it was very, very informative. And I
We should
think
do it here.
It was really good. I mean, it was over a half an hour long. We had a lot of time, but it was a great presentation. I learned a lot about the railroad, so I'm going to let Bruce know that. And then it's been a good year for the bus business. Got new roof, new fare boxes. So it's been good. It's been a good year.
Oh, this is our last meeting of the year.
It is.
Oh, wow.
So, that's it.
Gary?
Steve.
Well, at an earlier meeting, I said that this might be the last meeting. Too bad you didn't. I'm still here. And I expect to be here. So I've got a new position. They did cut the program, the air quality program, cut about $200,000 cut. So they're down to just about 2 people. But
It's about you,
But
Matt,
I-
and your chickens? Is that-
right, so I'm not gonna. I'll still be visiting with my chickens, but I've been appointed deputy director at the health department, so I'm still here. So.
Congratulations.
I don't know if that's congratulations.
Greg, do you have anything for the good of the order?
No, I just thank
Good
all
luck
the
with
help
your,
this year.
good luck with your trial.
Unfortunately, it's not my fault.
Oh, yeah.
Someone
Okay,
else.
anything else? If not, scheduled policy committee, the next one is December 20th, at which they were gonna be adopting home care laws.
Is that the secret Santa meeting?
Sure.